Big weekend in La Liga, a good one if you're Real Madrid fans. Zinedine Zidane's side now 3 points clear at the top of the table. That's after Real Madrid beat Rayo Vallecano by 1-0. Nacho with a header late on in that game. Meanwhile, Quique Setien suffered his first defeat as coach of Barcelona, 2-0 at Mestalla against Valencia. Let's start there, shall we, Gab? Barca, I think it's epitomised it well, isn't it? 80% of the ball they had in the first half, but they had no shots.
Yeah, look, and it's very easy to go and lampoon them for lack of penetration. Setien came in, and the idea was that he returned to Barcelona values and the tiki-taka of the early Pep Guardiola era. But I think the reality is, this type of football, it's only going to work if you go and you achieve penetration, if you take shots on goal. And that requires movement up front, which right now Barcelona don't have. The chemistry's not there. Also, Luis Suarez, the only genuine center forward they have, he's not there either. But this has earned them a ton of criticism. Also missing, and this might be even harder to replicate, is that aggressive press which Pep's Barcelona had back in the day. And you know, that's going to be tough to do given the age of Lionel Messi at this stage of his career, Antoine Griezmann as well. These guys aren't perhaps suited to pressing in the same way. So looks to me like Setien's going to have to figure a few things up, adapt and evolve, and some things will come in time. Others, I'm not so sure.
It's going to be tough.
There's a little fella who's going to get very frustrated very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I always say it, possession is great, but it has to be passing with a purpose. And not just for the sake of it. You know, 800 passes and what. You have to have, as Gab said, you have to have the penetration. You've got to try and suck teams that sit deep. You've got to try and manoeuvre them out of possession and then hit them with some quick passing. We see City doing it. We see Liverpool doing it. We see Liverpool, if we're talking about the informed team in Europe, going forward very quickly at times, not scared to hit a longer ball, not scared to shift it forward quickly with pace. And he's going to have to find that balance, as I say. And you know, some of the things during the game, at the end of the day, it was the normal service was resumed. When things weren't going particularly well, it was, oh my God, let's just give the ball to Lionel Messi.
Yeah, exactly. And Messi had an off day. 11 shots, no goals.
And we've been saying that for some time. Unless Messi is a superhuman, this Barcelona team simply can't get the job done. And that was clearly evident.
But wasn't Setien supposed to fix that?
Well, listen, I understand you go back to that old philosophy that works so well, where Barcelona keep the ball and find a way to bring the opposition down. It worked well for Guardiola because you've got the likes of Xavi and Iniesta. I just don't feel that this Barcelona team has that kind of creativity. I think De Jong can do it. Busquets sitting just in front of the back four, I don't think is anywhere near as effective. And then what you have is Messi having to drop to get on the ball every single time. And that leaves him in positions not to have the kind of effect that you hope he does, or Setien needs him to do.
Well, listen, he's just in the door. In all fairness to him, he's just in. But he's not in the philosophy business. He's in the results business. And at the end of the day, he's going to have to figure it out. Even though, as I say, he's just in. He's learning about the squad. They're learning about him. But ultimately, it's quite a simple game with pretty good players he's got there that shouldn't be overcomplicated. And I think it's a little bit back to basics about what they want to achieve. Because he's got to get results. That's the bottom line. Real Madrid, we've touched on it over the course of the show. They're getting results even when they're not playing particularly well.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of a decent side.
Go on, Gab, what did you want to say?
No, I think the most obvious thing, though, in terms of Setien's approach, or what some people think it should be, is that the guy who invented it, the guy who mastered it, the guy who took it to another level, Pep Guardiola, that guy doesn't play that way anymore. You know, he evolved from that type of football to a different type of football at Bayern and now at City when they won the 2 league titles. He's also got the 2 pretty good passers in midfield in De Bruyne and David Silva, and yet he doesn't play that way anymore. So in some ways, Barcelona seem to be yearning for sort of a golden pass that they had 10 years ago that even the guy who created it doesn't rely on anymore.
What's happened to Griezmann, Gab?
I think it's a difficult one. I mean, I think there is a legitimate cultural shock going from a team like Atleti playing under the Simeone way, the Cholismo, all that stuff, to a different stage at Barcelona with a different philosophy, a different setting. a guy who is the star man and it's not you, having to adapt. Personally, I think with Suarez out, he should be playing down the middle, but that's difficult to do. Now Setien wants more pressing as well, which means that he's going to have to run himself into the ground a little more. He looks across the front line and he's got a 17-year-old kid in Ansu Fati and Lionel Messi, who obviously isn't going to go and do all that work off the ball either. I think all these things weigh pretty heavily on him, and I'm sure he'll snap out of the funk at some point, but who knows when that's going to be? Might be next season.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.